Don't forget to connect with Sandy Rios in the morning on Facebook or email Sandy at sandy@afr.net. That's sandy@afr.net. Sandy Rios in the morning on American Family Radio.
What's really important for people to understand is that this company misappropriated data of upwards of 50 million people from Facebook. This data was used to create profiling algorithms that would allow us to explore mental vulnerabilities of people.
We need to find out what we can about the misappropriation of the privacy, the private information of tens of millions of Americans.
This is a big deal when you have that amount of data, and the privacy violations there are significant.
All right, Sandy Rios back with you. Well, that was, let's see, that was an employee of Facebook, the guy with the pink hair. He's the one speaking first about Cambridge Analytica, which was I don't know what to call it, a system that was hired and used, among other clients, by the Trump administration in the last election. And the story goes like this. Cambridge Analytica bought information from Facebook and used the information of 50 to 55 million Americans. And the rest of it is that they are inferring that they were sent fake news, fake information, and with that fake information, that's what caused them to vote for Donald Trump, and that's what caused him to win. Now, that's the inference of all of this. And, of course, that's a simplified version. This issue is very complex. I'm sure that most of you listening to me do Facebook. I would imagine most of you do. And yet I would imagine that most of you don't fully understand how this works and how it really is used. Scott Walters joining me this morning. He's the president of Capital Research Center. Capital Research Center. Scott, thanks for joining me, first of all. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandy. Great to be with you.
Scott, Capital Research Center, I've worked with you guys before you ever joined, way back when your old president was there. I can't even recall his name, Terry, I think.
Terry Scanlon,
Wonderful, wonderful work. If you were to, in a nutshell, say what your mission is, what is it?
We investigate the left deeply and expose it widely.
And that is the truth. You certainly do that. You guys provide so much great information and have been doing this for decades. So, Scott, let's talk about this. I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. You heard how I characterize the allegations against Cambridge Analytica and using Facebook information. Do you think that that's correct? Do you think that's the direction they're going? And what part of that is true and what part of that is false, you think, the allegation?
Sure. Well, it's definitely the way that they're going because the left and the mainstream media, because, of course, the critical thing for them is to find an excuse for Donald Trump winning so that you can declare him illegitimate. And it was and he cheated and all that. So they have to find something like that. And this is a fun new thing because it has a maybe kind of slight tie to the Russian collusion silliness, but mainly it's new and exciting. And you can get people annoyed at their privacy being invaded. You know, you're more likely to care that somebody is secretly taking your Facebook info than that, some Russian somewhere said something. So I think that's where they want to put it. The tricky thing, though, is that it's way overblown in multiple ways. Now, on the one hand, Facebook is dangerous and not our friend and not a wonderful institution. But on the other hand, all the Trump campaign and its friends at places like Cambridge Analytica did is the same sort of thing that the left has been doing for far more election cycles, and that is, all of us there's tons of data, Sandy, about you, about me, about any listener. There's your Facebook data. There's your voter registration data. There's your license data. There's tons and tons of data about everybody out there, and all kinds of companies for years have been trying to combine all that and analyze it and figure out how best to use it, whether it's to sell you products, or to get you to donate to causes, especially political causes, or to get you to vote the way they want you to vote. And so nothing that Cambridge Analytica is even accused of is anything different from what the Obama campaign did in 2008 and 12 and what the Clinton campaign did in 16 and on and on.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. Let me just say that I would imagine you would agree with me that it is no big deal that our information is being harvested and used in various ways. It's not that you think that's no big deal, and it's not that I think it's no big deal. The point is in terms of how this is being characterized, and we're gonna sort that out in a second. I was reading, and maybe you saw this too. This is an article by Paul Bernal, who's a senior lecturer in IT at UEA Law School. And it's called The Cambridge Analytica Scandal Isn't a Scandal. This is how Facebook works. And he points out that there are three parts to Facebook's model. First of all, they design systems that allow the data to be used to target people. Secondly, they allow third parties to use this data and those targeting systems to their own purposes. And the first thing is they gather data from people in order to profile them. So they gather data, they design systems, and then they allow third parties to use that data and targeting. And Cambridge Analytica is just one of many. You guys at Capital Research Center did a really stunning article. I remember reading this too when Barack Obama was running, and that was the story about Catalyst. Scott, tell us about what Catalyst was and what you guys found.
Sure. People have to remember the 2004 election of George W.'s re-election bid against John Kerry. Everybody was sure all the way through the day of the election that Kerry was going to win because obviously nobody would vote for a crazy Republican like W. And George Soros put about $27 million of his own money into the Democratic Party and candidacy, and they woke up and George W. Bush was still reelected. So there were two big things that came out of that. One was the Democracy Alliance, which George Soros also underwrote almost immediately after the election. And then the following year, 2006, Soros invested the first $1 million into Catalyst, that's Catalyst, and the person heading it was Harold Ickes, who was a former Clinton aide and one of the ickiest, if you'll forgive a bad pun. He'd been a mob lawyer defending hitmen and the rest before coming on to the fine operation that Clintons run. And what Catalyst did was it went around, it was created as a for-profit company, so there's no disclosure requirements, and they went around to the entire left. That is both the political operations, so state Democratic committees, National Democratic Committee, and whatnot. Also the labor unions all over the country, which really are another wing of the Democratic Party, in fact, the most important wing, and also the activist groups, Planned Parenthood, Audubon Society, you name it. And they got everybody's data, and they put together information on according to them, every adult of voting age in America. Hundreds of millions of files. And again, it was everything you'd want. It was, are you registered? What party are you registered for? What kind of commercial information do we have about you? Your buying patterns. What groups do you donate to or are members of? And the SEIU and ACORN, if you remember that fine group, both bragged about how using this data was incredibly valuable for us in winning elections. In fact, they explicitly said we won elections in 2007, 2008 because of our ability to use the Catalyst data.
Yeah, let me just give, by the way, there are some quantifying things in the article that Capital Research printed or published in 2012. Catalyst says that the data stored by all progressive groups, over 90 organizations, campaigns, and committees working with us in the 2008 cycle, that's when President Obama was first running, reached 15 and a half million people, a difference of over 80% compared to 2004. But stay tuned. Overall, Catalyst customers were responsible for generating over 7 million voter registration applications. They completed over 127 million contacts to over 49 million unique individuals. And of these individuals, 28 million voted on Election Day, representing over 20% of all votes cast. Not finished yet. Furthermore, 82% of progressive activities occurred in 16 highly contested states. Progressives contacted 37% of all the people who voted in the 16 battleground states. That's to quantify the reach of Catalyst, Scott, which you guys did in your report. By the way, we'll put that report on our Facebook page. It's called, Catalyst for Victory, How Nonprofits and Unions Have Struggled to Re-elect President Obama. But, Scott, it doesn't even end with that, because you guys, and I remember this well, too, when Obamacare was implemented and put into law, there was some very creepy aspects to Obamacare, and one of it was these what monitors? I can't think of what they called them.
Navigators.
Navigators. Tell us about that, and in regard to this same subject.
Sure. Well, again, the left is constantly thinking, our side is so pathetic by comparison. The left is constantly thinking, how do we organize people? How do we manipulate people? How do we herd them to do what we want? So one of the glories of Obamacare was not just that it took over control of a huge chunk of the economy and bent big corporations to its will, but also just having Obamacare meant people were going to have to sign up for it. And of course, it's not easy to, as we all know, dealing with government bureaucrats, it's never easy to do that. So the program created navigators. Obamacare has navigators to help you sign up for the program. Now, those navigators, of course, are going to help you put in your most precious information into the government system. So, of course, the navigators themselves will have that information as well. And even better than that, where are you going to hire the people to do the navigating? Well, easy. We can go to our left-wing nonprofit groups, left-wing unions, the acorn groups that still exist just under another name, and we can give them tax dollars to have the job of getting these people's private information. So it's a wonderful scam.
It's frightening, really. And I know that Scott, you and I are just barely scraping the top of this. Let's come back to Facebook, because now we're learning more. Of course, the whole hubbub that people are going to be hearing about is Cambridge Analytica, which was the company that President Trump's people hired to gather information and use it, which is what all campaigns now are doing. We must add, in order to compete. But now we're learning, according to an insider at Facebook, that Facebook let them, the Obama campaign, I think she was with Obama 2.0 or whatever they called it at the time, Obama for America. And she said that Facebook came into their offices and realized that they were allowing them to have information they shouldn't have, but it was okay because they agreed with them politically. Basically, that's the story. Anything more to add to that, Scott?
Yes, you're talking about a woman named Carol Davidson, and she was Director of Integration and Media Analytics for Obama for America. And according to her story, when Facebook discovered how the Obama campaign's apps that used Facebook were hoovering up all kinds of data about the people who signed up, in her words, that freaked Facebook out, so they shut off the feature. But on the other hand, they never demanded that the data come back, and the Republicans never got that data. And the woman says, now there's a disadvantage of information that, to me, seems unfair. But she also said the Facebook folks came to our office in the days after the election, and they were very candid that they allowed us to do things they would not have allowed someone else to do because they were on our side, close quote. And you can even go to her tweets and see her saying exactly what I just read.
Yeah, so actually we'll post that article on our Facebook page too so that people can see it. Now, Mark Zuckerberg is in tremendous trouble. Facebook's stocks went down. I guess they tanked the stock market yesterday or the day before because of this news. Mark Zuckerberg is kind of hiding. That's what the allegation is. And, of course, he's in trouble because he allegedly helped the Trump campaign. No trouble because Facebook probably helped many campaigns. We just have a few minutes left here, Scott. I don't know how people I don't even know how to tell them to think about this other than they just need to know what's really true and what isn't.
One one thing is that you'll never be able to learn all the fine print of what you're signing up for when you do these things. So, if you have a Facebook account, you should use it as, relatively little rather than generously. You especially should never sign on to another app using Facebook, because then Facebook will hoover up all the information connected to that. And in general, we have to hope that conservatives will set up alternatives to these social media platforms, because that's, in the long run, the only way to get around this.
It's really sad. We've made ourselves, we're addicted. People are addicted to using Facebook for the most innocuous of reasons. And now it's going to come back to bite all of us. I think it's not just about this political stuff. It's about the way they're using and invading our privacy. Just don't think that anything's private anymore. Certainly not when you use it on Facebook. And I think that's Scott's point. Scott Walter, Capital Research Center. Scott, thanks. I appreciate it so much, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Great to be with you, Sandy. Have a good day.
All right, you too. All right, Sandy Rios. And, of course, there's more when I return. Please don't go away.